So Roman numeral number 5 is the superintendent's report, number 1, which is the superintendent's update. First, I just want to thank you, Chairman Parker, and good evening to everybody watching and at home, and all school committee members. Before we begin, I also did want to extend my condolences and those of the entire Everett Public School community to Mr. Frank Parker on the death of his mother, Lena, who was an EPS employee and a loving wife, mother, and grandmother. Obviously, Chairman Parker has an incredibly heavy heart as he presides over this meeting tonight. Um, I wish we were together so we could offer our condolences to Chairman Parker in person. And I think one of the many heart-wrenching aspects of the pandemic has been its impact on how we are able to console our friends and families at times of loss. So I know I speak for everyone when I thank the chairman for finding the strength to be here tonight. It is clearly an incredible and inspiring sign of his commitment to our students and families. So before we move into the contents of this week's report, I did want to share one thing of immediate importance. Starting this week, we are no longer providing live translations of our school committee meetings. So what we are going to be doing instead is recording the meetings or dubbing them in Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole and posting them on our website as soon as possible. So this change will be more manageable for our family liaisons and also especially while we are in the Zoom environment and it's difficult to manage the simultaneous interpretations in our breakout rooms. So in addition, our families will not have to so they will be able to watch the meetings at their convenience after we post them. And we will continue to have our family liaisons available to residents who do want to make public comments. So they still will be here for the public comment portion of the evening. So tonight's update features the latest on our vaccine plans, which unfortunately have been delayed at the state level, but which will hopefully not cause too great of a disruption to our plans to reopen our schools under a hybrid model. You will get to hear from the ETA leadership this evening about their thoughts on hybrid learning. And of course, I do look forward to hearing from all of you as we work collectively and productively on the critical components of this plan. I will also share a small budget update with all of you, which is encouraging overall, as well as a budget timeline that will take us into July. This is part of our ongoing efforts to speak more freely, creatively, and transparently about the budget process and our priorities. But first, I have an update about tomorrow to share that many of you probably are already aware of. Tomorrow, Tuesday, February 2nd, is going to be a snow day for the Everett Public Schools. Our buildings will be closed and students and staff do not have to log on for remote learning tomorrow. So I do hope that everyone will safely enjoy their first snow day of this unforgettable school year with your families. If we have to change our schedule on Wednesday, we will make that announcement via robocall, text alert, social media, and our website sometime tomorrow. If you do not receive a message, that means we will be resuming our normal schedules and routines on February 3rd. Also, our lunch distribution, which is normally on Tuesdays, will be moved from our Tuesday day to Wednesday, February 3rd of this week. So families who normally come out on Tuesday will please come out on Wednesday instead. You'll be able to pick up your meals at the exact same locations, also at the same times that you normally do from 2:30 to 4 p.m. So I am pleased to announce that Everett High School is on the verge of opening or beginning its interscholastic athletic season. So starting this week, the Crimson Tide boys and girls basketball teams and our hockey team will begin practicing for the 2021 winter season. So to be clear, you do not need to grant any approvals or be furnished with any new information regarding the winter season. The tenets of the Greater Boston League's plan, which you approved in December, are still firmly in place. Safety is the guiding force of our return to athletics. And this effort is being led by our athletic director, Tammy Turner, who held a Zoom meeting with winter athletes earlier today to go over the extensive list of protocols and procedures. The primary safety measures of the GBL plan are included on this slide. And the GBL schedule calls for a month of conditioning and practice sessions with interscholastic games to begin in early March. We are bringing back varsity athletes only this week as we want to perfect all of our procedures with a smaller cohort of students first. So we will add junior varsity teams to the mix next week. Unfortunately, we will not be fielding freshman teams for winter sports this year, but hopefully freshman squads will be included in spring sports. And also, again, as an unfortunate reminder, no fans, including parents, will be allowed to attend games when they do begin next month. Because Ms. Turner is overseeing our athletics related COVID 19 operations, she is not going to be coaching the girls basketball team. So that role is being capably handled by Riley Dunn. Stanley Chamberlain, the assistant principal of the Parlin School, is our boys basketball coach, while Cavarian School principal Alex Nauman leads our hockey program. As always, Ms. Turner will be in close contact with the Board of Health Director, Sabrina Farrakano, as we monitor the launch of our sports season and the health and well-being of our student athletes. Schools across the state are already well into their winter season, so I'm very happy that our students and those of our fellow GBL districts can participate as well. And we are going to be doing our best, and we'll provide more information later on, trying to have those games live streamed or recorded for later viewing. Also, as a great announcement for this evening, as most of you already know by now, Everett High School has named a new head football coach. So Rob DiLoretto, an Everett native and Everett High graduate, has accepted with sincere joy and appreciation the chance to lead the Crimson Tide football program. I know I speak for Ms. Turner and the Everett High leaders when I say that we are very happy to give Mr. DiLoretto the chance to accept what he calls his dream job. His genuine and tireless interest in the success of our student athletes, our high school, our community, and our football team made him a natural selection. And judging by the feedback I have already received over the last week, the sentiment is clearly shared by the community at large. You can read the complete details of Mr. DiLoretto's, Coach DiLoretto's extensive coaching career in the profile on our website. He was an assistant with us in 2017 and 2018, and he has held coaching positions at Arlington High and Pope John, where he won a Super Bowl. And just as importantly, Mr. DiLoretto is an accomplished educator who has had a long and successful career at Arlington High, where he currently serves as the Dean of Students. He possesses all of the skills needed to oversee every aspect of our football program. An obvious question that many may have is when our team will be able to be led out onto the field. So the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association has created what is being called a Fall 2 season, which will run from late February to the middle of April. So there are a lot of moving parts to this plan. Including a set number of mandatory conditioning and outdoor practice sessions that need to be held before any games are played. The Fall 2 schedule, which overlaps with the winter season, could be impacted by late winter snowfall that cancels outdoor practices. So hopefully Coach DiLoretto's tenure will officially begin this school year, but it will be a little bit before we can announce this with certainty. But again, in the meantime, I do want to welcome Coach DiLoretto to our community and wish him the best of luck as he embarks on what we hope will be a long and successful tenure as head coach of the EHS football team. As part of our continued efforts to engage our parents and guardians with cost-free enrichment opportunities, I am thrilled to announce that we will be offering 15 spots in ESOL classes at Bunker Hill Community College. So those who complete the course will receive 3 elective college credits. Places in this free pilot program will be offered to parents or guardians from our structured English immersion schools who speak a language other than English. Interested participants will be enrolled on a first come, first served basis, and outreach is being directed by our school leaders at the Lafayette, Cavarian, Parlin, and Whittier schools. In addition, our family liaisons will record multilingual voice messages announcing this opportunity so that we can get the word out. There are no academic prerequisites required to take this class. So parents and guardians who are interested in this unique opportunity will be directed to email our EL leader, Adrian Kaminsky, who will enter the necessary information into Bunker Hill's online registration system. Adrian Supino, sorry. BHCC Registrar's Office will then contact those who are enrolled in the class. So in other words, we are trying to make this process as easy and accommodating as we can for our families. So this first course is entitled Voices of Everett, and it examines what makes our community unique and dynamic. So from history to newspaper headlines to stories inherited from one generation to the next, students in this 3-credit seminar will learn about the significant roles stories play in the Everett community. So the students of the class will get to read and analyze narratives about Everett and voice their own stories in prose and poetry. So the remote classes will be held on Mondays from 6 to 7:30 p.m. and feature a mix of synchronous and asynchronous learning. There will be an office hour at the end of each class so students can question and receive help. So obviously our longer term goal is to offer more spaces for programs such as this, but this pilot program is an exciting and important first step in our mandatory mission to develop connections among our district, our community, and our families. So I commend everyone in our administration who worked on this effort, which was more considerable than what this update suggests. We had to explore several different options for this initiative and considered various variables on behalf of our parents before working on the details of this particular partnership. So we are happy with what BHCC brings to the table, and we do hope that Voices of Everett ESOL classes is just a small beginning of a much larger and farther reaching project. So yesterday also marked the beginning of Black History Month, and we have 3 projects we are doing at the district level that I wanted to share with you, most especially our students and families at home. So for students in kindergarten through grade 5, we are holding an art contest in which students can design colorful posters that will best reflect what Black History Month means to them. In grades 6 through 8, we are sponsoring an essay contest in which students can write about a particular individual who inspires them during Black History Month. We will award first, second, and third place prizes totaling $700 for the winners of this contest. And for EHS students, we are asking entrants to choose one of 3 quotes from prominent Black figures. And describe what these quotes mean to them in 500 words or less. So we will award first, second, and third place prizes totaling $850 for the winners of the EHS essay contest. And we also look forward to spotlight prominent local and national Black Americans as part of a brief spotlight series. So we will share these on social media as well as on our website. So while we need not go into the specifics of the tragic events that have taken place around the country, which have served to raise awareness about our relationships between our police departments and the communities they serve, Everett, I do think, has been on the forefront of making sure that these are positive relationships. And many eloquent, inspirational, and persuasive things have been said about every dimension of this conversation. So now we believe is the time to begin forming, more enhanced and deeper partnerships that enhance what we already have had. So in an effort to build on the strengths and skills that our youth in Everett possess and to leverage and bolster those skills, we will be establishing a paid internship pilot for students to work as liaisons between the Everett Police Department and the Everett Public Schools. So to start, the internship will be conducted via Zoom, and the time commitment is approximately 12 hours per week. Developing and collating student surveys, identifying new student supports, and hosting community workshops are just a couple of the examples of what the internship might entail. And the intention of the internship is to allow students in Everett to learn about the services that the EPD provides to all residents and to deconstruct the perception of police officers and help generate new initiatives that foster that greater relationship between EPD and the youth in Everett. So this program attempts to find new and creative methods to promote positive and productive relationships between our police and our youth. So interns will be reporting to EPD Lieutenant Sabatina Rosa or his designee from the Community Services Division of the Everett Police Department and a representative from the Everett Public Schools. So we are in the process of formalizing the exact job description with the EPD, and we will share it with EPS students as soon as it is completed. But I can say that a demonstrated interest in criminal justice, psychology, sociology, and or other comparable career pathways will definitely be among the preferred experience. So this project is springing from a very positive working relationship with the Everett Police Department and with the support and cooperation of the city. Again, I just want to give a special thanks to Lieutenant Rosa for helping us coordinate this effort and for sharing the information and communicating information between us and the police department. I want to thank Chief Mazie for all of his support, and I look forward to providing updates about the EPD liaison position during future superintendent reports. So I will now briefly discuss the fiscal year 2021 budget, which I understand might seem, a little odd given the urgency of the school year, but we do have some positive information to share as we always try to use a wide angle lens in our budget priorities and fiscal planning. So last week we received our preliminary budget estimates for FY22 Chapter 70 funding and our net school spending requirements, both of which come from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So I'm happy to say that the proposed numbers are encouraging. The estimates based on figures included in Governor Baker's proposed state budget for the upcoming fiscal year call for increases aids to district by 3.7%. So this more importantly would result in our Chapter 60 aid to rise by approximately 12%, which results in a great mix of relief and excitement. So the key change to the Chapter 70 formula is due to the start of the phased in increases called for by the Student Opportunity Act. Obviously, we will have a wide range of services and initiatives to plan for in advance of what we expect to be the start of a typical school year next September. So these preliminary budget figures point to a great start to those efforts. So this slide provides just a high-level overview of the budget timeline we are looking at starting this month, and which includes the news I've just shared with you. So we will continue to work on our enrollment and our staffing projections, as well as chargeback costs to the city and budgets for all departments and schools through the next few months. During this time, we're also going to continue to get finalized budget allocations through the House and Senate budget processes. We will be presenting our draft budget to the subcommittee of the whole in March, upon which the budget will be recommended to the school committee for public hearings and a budget vote to be conducted hopefully by the second school committee meeting in April. So the mayor's joint convention on May 10th will be a financial forecast presentation by the city, whereupon the city council will then submit a date for the school district to present our own budget. So we'll now transition and share updated attendance figures with all of you. So there is some good news here, which is that the last 2 weeks we have seen our best numbers this year with 95% of our students attending. The chart on the right shows a recent decrease in daily absences that we do hope will continue with the remainder of remote learning. As of the 85th day of school, students with perfect attendance or attendance rate greater than 90% increased to more than 5,600. So we do hope that the return to more in-person instruction over time will serve to, again, re-engage the students who, despite our greatest outreach efforts, have remained less connected during our remote learning model. But we are very happy to be able to demonstrate that many of our students are engaging at a level that we are pleased with. Switching to COVID-19 data, Everett does continue to see a rise in total cases, but like most communities, the curve is showing signs of flattening. As of today, there have been more than 7,000 positive cases in Everett, and hopefully we have seen our final surge come to an end. Over the holiday season, our daily case counts were regularly ranging from the 70s to the low 100s. But since January 20th, Everett's daily cases have ranged from 13 to 55, which is an improvement. This slide is starting to look different from what we have been staring at during the last few meetings. After a prolonged period of consistent upward movement in both our average daily incidence rate and percent positivity, the last week has seen a sharp drop on both counts. So these are very encouraging signs of improvement. And again, we do hope these trends continue. Everett's improving rates do put us at ninth highest among Massachusetts cities and towns. So, of course, again, we are not fully there yet, and face coverings and social distancing, again, remain the strongest measures. I know I say this at every meeting, that we can take to slow the spread, and these practices will definitely be an essential element of returning to school. So with January on the books, we can now update our chart tracking COVID for Everett's school-aged children. So as expected, the holidays contributed to a new high of 298 confirmed cases in 1 month, and there are surely more asymptomatic young people in the community. So this does emphasize the district's need for testing before returning larger numbers to our buildings. We've also been keeping close track of exposures within school buildings, and this chart shows positive cases identified in blue, along with each exposure to those deemed close contacts in red. So our contact tracing efforts will need to ramp up when we do bring back larger groups of students. To that end, I know I've mentioned before that we are hiring COVID-19 coordinators who will oversee contact tracing and other processes related to the pandemic, such as testing. I know that in the last presentation, I talked a little bit about how we don't always see the exact same trends or even the trends that we expect to see from week to week. And here is an example where last week we were lucky enough to not have any cases in our e-learning centers. So we didn't have one single case, which was really great news. However, again, we saw in the previous slide in January that 0 to 19 are seeing an increase in cases cumulatively in January. So again, the data, shows us both sides of this, and we have to keep all of that in mind as we make decisions moving forward. So this chart shows the same cases and close contact data in aggregate. And again, it is nice to see an improving trend that demonstrate our in-building precautions are increasingly effective. So again, this January bar graph looks very different for in the school buildings than what it admittedly looks like in the city as a whole. And as we discussed during our last meeting, the district will have to close our e-learning centers when we do eventually move to hybrid learning. So we will not have the staff necessary to run the centers when students return to our classrooms in significant numbers. We have explored every possible way that we could potentially do that, even with spaces around the city. But at this point, we are unable to offer e-learning centers at the same time as we are offering hybrid. So the paraprofessionals and staff who have been very instrumental in the daily operation of the e-learning centers will in fact be needed in the classrooms, and we will be required to perform their traditional responsibilities. So this chart shows the average daily attendance rates at all of our e-learning centers for each week from October 30th through January 22nd. So as you can see, the numbers are consistent but modest. They range from a low of 197 to a high of 284. And again, this is across all of our e-learning centers. So the average daily total e-learning center attendance during this 10-week period is approximately 233, which is less than 3.5% of our total enrollment. So more than 400 students did sign up for the e-learning centers originally. So we also never approached 100% attendance of what we had originally had enrolled in the e-learning centers. That said, we do appreciate the importance of the centers for our families who are utilizing them on a regular basis, and we will continue to explore ways in which we can support these students, even if it is not within EPS, when we do transition to hybrid. So we are looking at other partnerships with state licensed early education providers who might have places for our students on the days when they are learning remotely. In the meantime, our e-learning centers will continue to be open every day, and families will receive ample notice before those centers close and before hybrid begins. COVID-19 the planning is often involving a lot of trade-offs, and we recognize that as we fill one void, we are often creating another. We realize that as we are making our plans, and it is impossible to find solutions that work equally well for all students and families. So again, in this case, closing our e-learning centers will be greatly offset, we hope, by the opportunity to launch in-person learning for all of our students. We are pleased to also announce, oh, to share again. Did I lose the presentation? Sorry. I'm going to go on. All right. So next I'm going to talk about hybrid learning. So at our last meeting, we did discuss, some key aspects of what will be our hybrid plan. Let's see. Can we get that? So chief among them was the basic structure of our in-person schedule. So you originally approved a week on, week off schedule, but we have requested that you approve a change to a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday model. The committee did bring up several considerations at the last meeting that we have since explored, and I just wanted to give you guys an update. So first, an important question was raised about PEBT benefits. So unfortunately, EPS students who do participate in hybrid learning will receive less money per month in the PEBT benefits than students who continue in the fully remote model. However, this is the case regardless of how we distribute our A and B cohorts. So any student who is enrolled in a hybrid program, regardless of the schedule, will receive less in their monthly benefits. So that is one of the other trade-offs that we do have when we go to hybrid. We've also reached out to our partners because something else that got brought up was if our partners would be able to better accommodate our students on an every other week model versus a 3 days per week model. And again, while we don't have any formalized partnerships with our community-based organizations at this point, we're just really exploring, we have at least confirmed that it is neither easier nor more difficult to accommodate students, whether it is an every other week model or 3 days per week. We did do some extra outreach to our principals who did reach a consensus on the AB schedule, which is interesting because previously and even last summer, I think more often our leaders had not advocated for the or had, were kind of split on the 1 week in, week out model. And even I was. But as we have learned more about the experiences of other districts and the specific needs of our families, our opinions, I think, have shifted over time. So specifically, they are clear in their belief that students are better served by attending school on a weekly basis, not bi-weekly. And many of our principals also pointed out that there were some practical benefits to the weekly schedule, like when we have to administer formative assessments and summative assessments. So as a result, we continue to believe that the 2 days a week in A and B schedule, doing Mondays and Tuesdays would be more beneficial than the week in, week out model. And we will be requesting later on this evening for a potential vote or a motion on this matter. And then finally, since we last met, the state has changed its guidelines for the COVID-19 vaccination, so which many of you have already known. And this has unfortunately prevented us from being able to facilitate a vaccine clinic as we had originally planned for our EPS teachers and staff. In fact, our hope was for our teachers to start receiving the vaccine this upcoming weekend. So that was our plan, was for them to have a clinic this upcoming weekend. But now the timetable has been thrown into flux and we are left to figure out how to best adjust on the fly. So I would like to once again thank the city for advocating for our staff and for our families. The vaccine delay happened despite the very best efforts of Mayor DeMaria's office, the efforts health officials and EPS administrators. I know that they tried every which way in order to make even a plan B or a plan C to see if we could get our educators vaccinated as we had originally planned and as part of our return plan. Before I do speak more at length about our current thinking, I did want families to know that the delay in the vaccine clinic does also mean that we will delay the family question and answer sessions that we were hoping to host next week. So we were announcing these, but now we're going to hold these events in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole on a school by school basis. As soon as it makes sense. And so we are now aiming for the week after the vacation. So looking into the near future, and this is what I would like for us to discuss today and hear from the ETA on tonight, obviously our preference was to offer the vaccine to our educators. My preference would be to offer at least the first dose of the vaccine to EPS personnel before we were to reopen. Unfortunately, we are unable to make any guarantees on that front anymore. Before, we were able to map out the timeline for both the first and second vaccine distribution. And at this point, we don't even have a first date of that distribution. So we are now third in line. Educators are third in line in phase 2. And those categories are now very discrete, and the local municipalities do not have the discretion that we originally had. So the state has tightened up very, very much on those regulations, which is why we're unable to do this. So, unfortunately, again, since we can't make any guarantees, and it has been often the case during the pandemic, we are dealing with yet again another time that we have to be flexible. We have to change our plans, and we have to plan accordingly. And so on one hand, I know that we are going to continue to advocate for teachers to receive the vaccine. I think that's happening statewide. But the state has decided very clearly that they are not going to prioritize teachers in the first phase of phase 2. And I think in part, this is because the data shows that the spread in schools is minimal. At the same time, DESE does continue to strongly urge districts to offer in-person classes. So they are, even though they are not providing the vaccine to teachers, and even though we continue to advocate for it, they are undeterred in their recommendations for us to return to school. So speaking strictly about the EPS, we do have to recognize that more than 50% of our families who did complete our hybrid survey did indicate that they would send their students to school. And they did not state this for next month or some indeterminate time in the future, but now in the month of February. So we had asked them, if we were to return in February, would you send your students? So these percentages, as we demonstrated last time, are also higher among certain student populations, which we're not surprised to see, including our English learners. So if we do not move on hybrid learning as fast as we reasonably can, that does mean that we are not responding to a very significant percentage of our families. And this is extra important to note because families who prefer remote learning do not have to participate in a hybrid schedule once we do return to hybrid. So I do want to be very honest about that. And we did take into account the newest responses we received, but we are still at about a 55% yes response to returning to school and 45% no. And again, that varies. There are more yeses, obviously, at the K-7 level than there are at the 9 through 12. And there are more yeses in our English learner populations or in the surveys that we received that were in Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and so on. So we have been, very cautious and deliberate in our approach to the pandemic, but I think we have reached, the next juncture where we need to commit to launching our hybrid plan. And I think we need to consider doing this regardless of whether we can offer vaccine clinics to staff. And again, it was our best intentions to be able to do so. But, the clock is ticking when we do kind of need to decide what our plan is for this school year. And the next several weeks are going to be critical in determining what we can offer to our students over the last 3 to 4 months of the school year. So in preparation for a potential vote at our next meeting on a revised return to school framework, it is important for us to hear from our teachers. So we will be continuing to meet, negotiate with the ETA regarding the return to hybrid instruction. And in this light, I would like to respectfully request to allow the ETA, who is here tonight, to present their ideas on returning to hybrid. So with your permission, I would like to invite Kim Auger, the president of the Everett Teachers Association, and Anna Siders, our high school mathematics and engineering teacher, who is also a member of the executive board of the ETA, to present on hybrid.